I am the lost true heiress, who, after numerous twists and turns, was ultimately raised by a formidable mobster as his daughter. Since childhood, I have slept with a gun as my pillow, while the imposter, Lin Yu, embraced a stuffed doll in her slumber. I could concoct 800 methods to eliminate Lin Yu without a trace, even using my knees. However, on my very first night at the Lin residence, Lin Yu scampered into my room, placing her doll between us. "Sweetheart, are you having trouble sleeping? Fear not, for I shall keep you company." My body stiffened, and the gun beneath my pillow felt like a cruel jest. One day I had agreed to return to the Lin family with the notion of outsmarting the despicable and malicious imposter, along with her biased and foolish biological parents, while simultaneously seizing the Lin family's fortune to aid my father, the gangster, in expanding his empire. This is how novels typically unfold. The naive and innocent true heiress, upon her return, is subjected to relentless schemes and exclusion, with her family mindlessly favoring the false heiress. The inevitable conclusion is that the true heiress, upon being diagnosed with a terminal illness, prompts her suddenly enlightened family to weep at her grave in regret. Having read such tales, I could suffer from a heartache for half an hour. Should a similar scenario befall me, a novel could scarcely capture the initial 3 lines. The imposter creates chaos, the family rushes to defend her, and in the next instant, I would personally deliver this entire family to a reunion in the afterlife with 24-karat pure golden offerings. The end, with a happy conclusion. Even if such individuals wept at my grave, I would deem it a nuisance. Only after scattering their ashes with my own hands would I feel any semblance of satisfaction. Thus, when the couple, who claimed to be my biological parents, appeared before me with tears in their eyes, I merely experienced a fleeting moment of surprise before eagerly retreating to pack my belongings. Until I exuberantly boarded the Lin family's Phantom, burdened with 2 hefty suitcases, the Lin couple remained utterly oblivious. With practiced ease, I lowered the car window and peered out, waving at my bewildered bodyguard. "Uncle Wang, inform my father, tell my dear adoptive father, that I shan't be returning home for dinner tonight." After delivering my message, I leaned out further to address the Lin couple. "Hurry up, Mom and Dad. Aren't you here to take me home?" My excitement was palpable, almost compelling me to burst forth in a round of jubilant cheers. Only upon my prompting did the Lin couple scramble into the vehicle, their demeanor resembling that of parents coming to reclaim their long-lost daughter, rather than a timid girl having allegedly abducted a wealthy couple. The car journeyed to the grand entrance of the Lin estate, where my biological parents finally seemed to regain their composure, as if rebooting from a state of cognitive overload. "Darling," my biological father tentatively called out to me. Indeed, there was no endearment. I remained Shinbabe, steadfast in my identity. One could easily surmise the extent of my battle-hardened father's cultural sophistication. He regarded me as a precious gift from the heavens, bestowing upon me the name Shinbabe with a grand flourish. The simplicity of it all was striking. Lin father, a man of higher education, appeared ill-equipped to grasp my father's minimalist aesthetic. Despite being a wealthy tycoon, he uttered my name with a lack of conviction, his tone awkward and unfamiliar. I straightened my back and turned to him, flashing a bright smile that showcased my 8 teeth. "What's the matter, Dad?" I anticipated the conversation to revolve around the faux heiress, Lin Yu. What would he say? "Little Yu is about your age. This oversight is our fault, and it has nothing to do with her. From now on, you two shall be sisters, so please get along." Or perhaps something more disingenuous like, "Little Yu has been longing for an elder sister. Now you two can keep each other company." I was fully prepared to counter any verbal barrage he might launch. Lin father seemed more anxious than I was, exchanging several furtive glances with Lin mother before finally mustering the courage to speak again. "Darling, you have suffered over the years. It is your father and mother's fault for not caring for you properly." This unexpected sentiment left me momentarily stunned. In novels, parents who reclaim their long-lost daughters seldom take a moment to apologize. "We will certainly make amends. You know we have a bit of money. This afternoon, I will take you to the company and transfer 50 of the shares to you." I felt as though I had been struck by lightning. Just like that, the company was mine? What would become of my carefully orchestrated scheme to outsmart and seize the family fortune? My father, who had recently been fretting over business conflicts with the Lin family, had unwittingly handed me the Lin estate during a brief absence. However, it seemed I might have to change my surname. I wondered if my father would commend my ambition or chastise me for being an ungrateful wretch. As I pondered this, Lin father and Lin mother resumed their roles, and my biological mother took my hand. "Darling," she said, and I straightened my spine again, eagerly looking at her. With my biological father offering little support, surely my mother would provide me with some dramatic flair? In novels, it is typically the biological mother who favors the false heiress. Little you is at home waiting to welcome you. She has been more eager to meet you than either your father or I. This opening line seemed promising, and I perked up, straining to hear more. Our family can easily accommodate another child. Your father and I love you both, though I cannot speak disingenuously. I purse my lips, lowering my gaze ever so slightly, masking my underlying mockery with a facade of meekness. Such lofty sentiments were merely a pretext to suggest that I should graciously accept Linyu, the girl who had stolen a decade and more of my life. If their love were so genuine, they could simply gift her a house and let her reside elsewhere, fulfilling their maternal instincts while sparing me the inconvenience. However, you needn't worry. Your father and I have already arranged for little you to have a house, and she will be moving out tomorrow. My irritation flared as Lin Mother suddenly shifted her tone, her words effectively silencing me for 10 seconds. I shot my eyes up to meet hers, disbelief flooding my senses. This narrative was unfolding entirely differently than I had anticipated. How could the false heiress be sent away before I had a chance to retaliate? I still had a firearm tucked away in my suitcase. Darling, are you still unhappy? Lin Mother misinterpreted my expression, her voice laced with nervousness. We have chosen a house for little you that is quite far from here, ensuring you will not see her. She merely wishes to apologize to you in person. Lin Father added, equally anxious as he fidgeted with his hands. If you truly do not wish to meet her, we can send her away first and then come back for you? Lin Father's decisiveness was commendable as he began to exit the car, ready to whisk Linyu away. No, I quickly intervened. A meeting would be fine. She is still a child. Since she is here, we might as well make it lively. After some persuasion, I finally secured a chance to confront the false heiress. Lin Father and Lin Mother each took my hand as we entered the house. Sitting on the living room sofa, Linyu appeared to have been anxiously awaiting my arrival for quite some time. As soon as the door opened, she sprang to her feet and rushed toward me. To my surprise, she was not clad in ostentatious attire meant to overshadow me, but rather in a simple set of Winnie the Pooh pajamas. The hem of her shirt was crumpled from her nervous fidgeting. "Hello, darling. You've worked hard to get here," she exclaimed, her enthusiastic greetings echoing throughout the room. I felt an unusual sense of embarrassment at my name, wishing I could cover her mouth. Unperturbed, Linyu flashed her pearly, white smile at me. Throughout the dinner, she clung to my side, serving me dishes and peeling shrimp, incessantly asking what I liked to eat. I was unaccustomed to such intimacy and discreetly shifted my bowl away. Linyu, oblivious, adjusted her position to stay close. I shot her a glare, but she seemed impervious to the threat in my eyes, beaming at me with her sweet, innocent face. All the tactics I had prepared to deal with a scheming rival went unused. Instead, I found myself preoccupied with maintaining distance from her. It was a game of cat and mouse, with me desperately trying to escape her grasp. Just as we were nearing the end of the dining table, Lin Father finally cleared his throat, unable to bear the sight any longer. "All right, I see you both have eaten enough. My darling must be exhausted from her journey. Let us head upstairs to wash up and rest." I felt as though I had been granted a reprieve, hastily setting down my bowl and offering a brief farewell before darting upstairs. Something felt amiss, far too amiss. This family of 3 was not playing by the expected rules, rendering me, the one who had prepared for every eventuality, feeling like a fool. Defeated, I washed up and lay down, determined to dismiss the day's events as a mere dream. Just as I was on the verge of drifting off, a phone call from my bodyguard broke the silence. "Miss, we have arranged for personnel to be on standby around the Lin residence 24/7, ready to ensure your safety." Unsurprisingly, my father wouldn't let me wander off without a contingency plan. However, the image of those highly trained mercenaries surrounding the premises clashed with the memory of Lin Yu's sweet, innocent smile, leaving me with a sense of futility akin to striking a fist against cotton. "Leave me alone." I irritably hung up the phone, burrowing under the covers in an attempt to numb the day's frustrations. Just as I was on the cusp of sleep, a knock at the door roused me. When I didn't respond, there was a moment of silence outside, followed by the sound of my door lock turning. I huddled under my blanket, alertly straining to hear, my hand instinctively reaching for the gun beneath my pillow. Such was the habit instilled in me by my father since childhood. In my childhood, I confided in him my fear of sleeping alone, hoping he would, like in the television dramas, buy me a plush toy for comfort. However, without hesitation, my father handed me a finely crafted handgun. Companionship cannot banish fear. The ability to protect oneself is the undeniable truth. I found his words to be remarkably astute. Yet, as I ascended the stairs, I inadvertently caught a glimpse of Lin Yu's open door, revealing an entire room brimming with dolls of all sizes. I couldn't deny a twinge of envy. In a fleeting moment of distraction, she had already entered my room, stealthily climbing onto my bed. My body tensed, and my fingers instinctively curled around the trigger. But then, something soft and furry was tucked under my covers, instantly transforming the emptiness of my back into a warm embrace. "Sweetheart, are you asleep?" Lin Yu whispered softly.
What do you want?
I should have resented her for intruding into my room uninvited in the dead of night. My immediate reaction should have been one of vigilance, questioning whether she had some scheme in mind against me. Yet uncontrollably, I relaxed my grip on the gun. Lin Yu had a way of eliminating all signals of danger. Upon hearing my voice, she visibly exhaled in relief. She climbed onto the bed, shoving the half-human-sized Winnie the Pooh plush deeper between us, pulling away half of my blanket to lie down. "I guessed you wouldn't be able to sleep. Don't be afraid. I'm here to keep you company," she said, oblivious to my discomfort. Stretching her arm over the Winnie the Pooh, she awkwardly reached my back and gently patted it in a comforting manner. I didn't turn to face her. My limbs felt stiff. Having slept alone for as long as I could remember, I was unaccustomed to such contact, yet I didn't find it entirely unwelcome. Lin Yu seemed completely unaware of my aloofness, chattering away to me. She spoke of how wonderful our parents were, what they liked and disliked, and where in the garden she had secretly buried her little treasures. She was helping me acclimate to this unfamiliar home. I listened drowsily, gradually realizing this was indeed the case. "Did you remember everything, sweetheart?" Lin Yu repeated. "You must remember, for tomorrow I'll be leaving, and if you forget, no one will teach you. But it's all right. Our parents are very patient people, and they will teach you." She continued to talk to herself, her tone devoid of any resentment about being sent away, unabashedly expressing her love for our parents. Everything was unlike what I had imagined. "Don't go. I need a companion at school." I struggled to muster my last bit of clarity to utter the sentence. Then, I buried my head beneath the blanket, cutting off Lin Yu's series of surprised and delighted really, as I sank into the realm of dreams. The next morning, upon hearing my decision, Lin Yu's parents exchanged glances for an extended moment. There was no trace of the anticipated joy. They solemnly and cautiously asked me repeatedly if I was truly certain of my choice. It was evident that they had not been feigning concern. They had already packed Lin Yu's belongings. I nodded repeatedly, assuring them of my lucidity. Thank goodness I was to accompany Lin Yu to school that day, otherwise they might have interrogated me for an entire day before believing me. "Well then, you both must get along well, and if anything arises, call your mother," Lin Yu's mother cautioned anxiously. "Little Yu, take good care of sweetheart. It's her first day at school. Don't let anyone bully her, all right?" "Don't worry, Mom," Lin Yu chirped, nodding vigorously as she swiftly packed her backpack like a little whirlwind. Backpack, water bottle, nap pillow. She finished gathering her things and turned her attention to me. "Sweetheart, do you want to bring some snacks? Should we have the aunt deliver lunch? Or will you eat in the cafeteria? What if you don't like the cafeteria food?" She bombarded me with questions, and my ears ached from the incessant chatter. I shrugged on my backpack and dashed outside. "No need. I don't need anything. Just leave me alone." Good grief, after living 17 years without a mother, suddenly having two felt like this, such a cacophony. Upon arriving at school, I realized I had miscalculated the battlefield. In the Lin family, there was no backstabbing or rivalry, but my pent-up energy and cunning found their outlet at school. The reason was simple. Lin Yu, the soft and delicate peach, had been emotionally manipulated for an entire year without realizing it. On our way to school, she excitedly described her best friend, Qin Yuan. Yuan is such a good person. When I was bullied, she was the first to stand up for me. When everyone ignored me, she still treated me as her best friend. She even gave me gifts. Look at this hairpin and this bow tie. Both were given to me, and she wears the same. She said we'll always be the best of friends. Her eyes sparkled as she proudly showcased the hairpin atop her head and the bow tie on her chest. It was evident she genuinely cherished this so-called friend. I was nearly deafened by her chatter, but thankfully, the car halted at the school gate, ending her incessant monologue. Once in the classroom, she disregarded my impatient protests and insisted on introducing me to her best friend. "Sweetheart, you'll definitely become friends with Yuan. I won tea." I tried to shake her off, but she had already spotted Qin Yuan sitting by the window and eagerly called out to her.
Yuan.
At the sound of her name, the girl looked up, revealing a sweet, innocent doll-like face, her straight bangs framing her forehead, embodying the quintessential obedient student. Upon seeing Lin Yu, she curved her lips into a delightful smile. There seemed to be nothing amiss, yet I instinctively furrowed my brow after a mere glance. Something about her smile felt peculiar. Her expression was gentle, but the joy did not reach her eyes. It seemed their relationship wasn't as intimate as Lin Yu had portrayed. Lin Yu, blissfully unaware of any dissonance, dragged me forward. Lin Yu, who is this? As we drew closer, Chen Yuan finally noticed me, sizing me up as she inquired of Lin Yu. I have always despised being scrutinized, and my frown deepened, instinctively disliking this Chen Yuan. Sweetheart, this is Yuan, my best friend I told you about. Yuan, this is Sweetheart. Among the three of us, only Lin Yu remained cheerful, initiating introductions between the two of us. Sweetheart? Who's Sweetheart? Chen Yuan's delicate facade cracked slightly at the overly familiar term. No. It's not that kind of sweetheart. Lin Yu waved her hands in a flustered attempt to clarify, but stumbled over her words. Shun Baobei, I interrupted, exhausted, and introduced myself. Yes, her name is Sweetheart. Lin Yu finally managed to explain, visibly relieved. Sweetheart is the true daughter of the Lin family. She just returned yesterday and will be attending school with us from now on. She was quite transparent about it, shattering my preconceived notions of how a fake daughter would conceal the identity of the true heiress. This fake daughter, however, seemed to possess a certain naivete. I cast a glance at Lin Yu's excited face, mentally concluding my thoughts. Yet, while Lin Yu is open and honest, others might not be as innocent as she presumed. Are you saying she is the true young lady of the Lin family? Chen Yuan's face registered surprise as she glanced at me, then fixed her gaze on Lin Yu. Then who are you? A flicker of malicious mockery flashed in her eyes, which I caught distinctly, causing me to narrow my own in response. Lin Yu was taken aback by the question, her face flushing with embarrassment. She wasn't the biological daughter of the Lin family, and her real parents had yet to be found. This question left her without a clear answer. Chen Yuan clearly sought to expose her. As class time approached, students gradually filled the classroom, many curious onlookers peering over to our side. Chen Yuan watched Lin Yu's awkwardness with keen interest. The smile at the corner of her lips grew increasingly peculiar, tinged with malice. How should I address you from now on? I suppose Lin Yu is no longer appropriate since that's not your surname, she inquired, her voice sweet yet laced with innocent curiosity. Yet, her words struck me like daggers. Even a single additional syllable raised my ire, making me feel an overwhelming urge to retaliate. Lin Yu lowered her head, on the brink of tears. She is my sister, I replied nonchalantly. Lin Yu looked up, startled by the sound of my voice, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. This spineless softy, acknowledging her as my sister, felt like a disgrace to my Mafia father. I sighed inwardly, pulling her wrist and drawing her behind me, meeting Chen Yuan's astonished gaze. Lin Yu is my sister. Her surname is Lin. Do you have any objections? My voice was soft, yet the classroom was silent enough for everyone to hear clearly. I sensed the prying eyes retreating, leaving only the boy behind Chen Yuan, who continued to observe me with a hint of amusement. I glared back, keep staring, and I'll have your eyes gouged out. The boy merely raised an eyebrow in surprise, a smirk playing on his lips, while Chen Yuan pursed her lips in indignation. My hand casually slipped into my pocket, discreetly playing with the butterfly knife concealed within. My patience was thin. My father had always taught me not to waste words on those unworthy of them. I fixated on Chen Yuan, calculating how I might silence her, without implicating the Lin family, if she dared to speak out of turn. Alas, the execution of such a plan seemed complicated. I might have to enlist my father's assistance to clean up the mess. Yet, Chen Yuan was a master of disguise. I was just joking. Lin Yu is my best friend. In the blink of an eye, her demeanor shifted, and she smiled as she took Lin Yu's hand, turning to grasp mine. I maintained a stoic expression, unwilling to withdraw my hand from my pocket. Unfazed, she continued to beam, her dimples deepening. Honestly, your sister's upset with me, Lin Yu. Please help me explain. Babe, Lin Yu began, but I swiftly interrupted. Shut up, go sit down, and focus on class. I turned on my heel and walked away. If this naive girl dared to speak on Chen Yuan's behalf, I couldn't guarantee I wouldn't resort to violence. The entire day, I remained irritable towards Lin Yu. Although she sensed my frustration concerning Chen Yuan, she couldn't fathom the reason behind my anger. Consequently, she treaded carefully around me, shadowing me from school until we returned home that evening. Are the little princesses back? Mother Lin greeted us with a smile. Was today smooth sailing? Did you adapt well? What would you like for dinner? I'll have Aunt Wong prepare it. What do you want to eat, babe? Lin Yu seized the opportunity to engage me. Aunt Wong's squirrel fish is absolutely delicious, and her pumpkin-baked eggs and tomato tofu are delightful too. I'm not eating. I'm too full of anger. I fought back my hunger to maintain my aloof facade. Mother Lin exchanged bewildered glances between Lin Yu and me, perplexed as to how her two daughters, who had been on good terms that morning, were now seemingly at odds. Regardless of our quarrel, I sat primly at the dinner table, primarily out of concern for my elders rather than any allure of the food. Lin Yu disregarded my protests, sitting close to me and piling my plate with food. The tenderest pieces of fish and the heart of the pumpkin-baked egg found their way into my bowl, while Father Lin's chopsticks repeatedly missed their mark. Casting a glance at his usually obedient daughter and then at my overflowing bowl, he resignedly set down his chopsticks. What's going on? Father Lin inquired. But Lin Yu glanced at me first. I remained silent, tacitly granting her permission to explain. Father Lin listened, his expression shifting to one of contemplation. Chen Yuan, you say? I've had some business dealings with her father. However, due to his unreliability, we ceased cooperation. While I can't hastily judge Chen Yuan based on her father's character, Lin Yu, it's wise to remain cautious. Look at that. Listen. Please, heavens, discern the loyal from the treacherous. I stuffed a large piece of fish into my mouth, casting a sidelong glance at Lin Yu, the ungrateful wretch. Sensing her guilt, she added another generous helping of fish to my plate. Just as I was about to indulge in a hearty meal, Father Lin casually interjected, nearly causing me to choke. Speaking of which, it was Shun Quan who alerted me to the trap that Chen's family nearly set for us. I straightened up, startled. Shun Quan, my uncultured father. How could I have forgotten him? Yet, I wondered how my father had helped him. Wasn't he constantly fretting about devouring the Lin family's assets? Well, that Shun Quan seems to be quite decent. I struggled to find appropriate words, unable to feign kindness. That was the only time. That old fox has been scheming to swallow our company whole, but thankfully, your father is experienced. Father Lin's tone was slightly irked, entirely forgetting about Chen Yuan as he launched into a tirade. I prefer not to make enemies. In business, more friends mean more paths to success. Yet this Shun Quan seems intent on opposing me. When pushed, I even looked into his background, but found nothing of value. Of course, he wouldn't find anything. My father's secrets were not something a mere businessman could uncover. This man has no weaknesses. The only thing I've heard is that he has a daughter whom he cherishes like his own eye, fiercely protective of her since childhood. No one outside of his closest associates has ever seen her. The proverbial I, awkwardly sipped my soup, scalding my tongue. Did you burn yourself, darling? Lin Yu, ever observant, quickly offered assistance. Drink some cool water. I had intended to hold my ground a bit longer to teach her a lesson, but the burning sensation on my tongue proved unbearable, and I eventually accepted the cup of water. Fine, I thought, casting a glance at her pitiful, puppy-like eyes. I felt a twinge of compassion. After all, with me around, Chen Yuan wouldn't stand a chance. I never anticipated Chen Yuan would be foolish enough to attempt to recruit me to her side. The following day at lunch, she uninvitedly sat beside me and Lin Yu. Just as I was about to spit out a bone from a piece of pork rib, I couldn't muster the timely retort of get lost. Babe, I think there has been a misunderstanding between us. Can we talk privately? She wore a sincere expression, glancing at Lin Yu. Having learned from yesterday's experience, Lin Yu dared not submit to her whims, instead looking at me with a half-eaten piece of vegetable in search of help. Finish that, no picky eating, I ordered, tossing my own carrots onto her plate before standing and gesturing to Chen Yuan. Let us talk over there. But you don't like carrots either. Lin Yu protested softly from behind. I quickened my pace, pretending not to hear. Chen Yuan and I settled at a corner table facing one another. Lin Yu is quite difficult to deal with, isn't she? She began, catching me off guard with her remark. I furrowed my brow, realizing she had misinterpreted my earlier attitude towards Lin Yu. I decided to remain silent, curious to see what her intentions were. Seeing my silence, Chen Yuan likely assumed she had hit a nerve, her smile growing ever more saccharine. Yesterday, you stood up for her in public. I knew you must have been deceived by her appearance. I listened quietly, my gaze sweeping over Lin Yu, who was eating with an expression of profound aversion directed at a pile of carrots. Tentatively, she used her chopsticks to pick up a piece and put it in her mouth, only to contort her face in disgust the next moment. That foolish girl. Her obedience was utterly disheartening. Had it been me, I would have discreetly disposed of that heap of carrots long ago. You may not know Lin Yu very well. Having just returned to the Lin family, Chen Yuan's insidious chatter was still ongoing. Her schemes run deeper than they appear. Previously, she deliberately sowed discord among her classmates. And when discovered, everyone cut ties with her. I felt sorry for her loneliness and decided to befriend her. But she, in turn, attempted to steal my boyfriend, constantly imitating my style and attire. This is common knowledge if you ask around, I retorted, scrutinizing her earnest face. While memories of Lin Yu's jubilant expression as she showed me her hairpin and bow tie flashed through my mind. Yuan was genuinely kind. She was the first to defend me when I was bullied. When no one else acknowledged me, she remained my truest friend. The reality was that Chen Yuan had intentionally tarnished Lin Yu's reputation in front of others and then positioned herself as the savior once Lin Yu was isolated. She even gifted me items. Look at this hairpin and this bow tie, both from her. She wears the same ones, declaring that we would forever be the best of friends. These identical gifts from a best friend ultimately served as evidence for her slanderous intentions. Not far away, Lin Yu was still mindlessly consuming her most detested carrots. I averted my gaze, lowering my eyes, my fingers absent-mindedly tapping the table. After losing a decade of your life to such a person, don't you want to teach her a lesson? Chen Yuan's sweet voice was laced with temptation, coaxing me gently. I had to admit, she was a master storyteller. Her narrative intricately woven and logically sound. Coupled with her innocent, charming face that occasionally revealed a hint of timidity, it was all too easy for her to persuade others. But I had already stated that Lin Yu was my sister. I raised my eyes and smiled at her. Chen Yuan likely believed she had succeeded again, instantly returning my smile with a radiant one of her own. Get lost. I uttered that single word, meeting her bright smile with a cool demeanor. Chen Yuan's expression froze, her smile contorting into one of disbelief. What? Do you not comprehend human language? My smile gradually faded. Get lost. Stay away from Lin Yu. If you dare to harbor any ill intentions towards her again, the next warning will not be so simple. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Lin Yu had finished eating, the plate devoid of any carrots, obediently sitting there waiting for me. I left the table and approached her. After a few steps, I retraced my path. And keep a close watch on your dog. Don't presume that anyone would be interested in such a piece of trash. My intuition told me that the boyfriend Chen Yuan mentioned was that boy seated behind her. What a pity. He possessed a handsome face, but was utterly blind. I turned to leave, unaware of the handsome blind boy in another corner, who was intently watching me. Luga, did she just insult you? The boy across from him removed his headphones, his face a mixture of disbelief and confusion. I'm not deaf. Lu Fan shot him a warning glance. But the other boy, despite shrinking back, ultimately refrained from voicing his thoughts. That Chen Yuan is no good. Steer clear of her, do you hear me? I firmly cautioned Lin Yu, blending threats with warnings. Lin Yu didn't understand why, but complied, maintaining her distance from Chen Yuan for several days. Whenever she felt cornered, she would come find me. I praised her, tightening my protective circle around her. With no opportunity to exploit, Chen Yuan fell silent for a while. However, her retaliation came swiftly and was more vile than I had anticipated. I had initially expected mere pranks, locking someone in the restroom or cornering us with a gang of followers. I was even open to something more extreme, as long as she faced me directly and utilized her own cunning to deal with me. If I were outmatched, I would gracefully admit defeat. But she resorted to underhanded tactics, summoning a few thugs to ambush Lin Yu and me. These were no mere schoolyard delinquents. They were true societal scum, lurking in the shadows, peering up girls' skirts. Lin Yu stood resolutely behind me. I cast a cool glance at the group of thugs, then glanced resignedly at Lin Yu, who trembled in fear. One hand reached for the folding knife in my pocket while the other removed my mask. I knew my father's bodyguards were nearby. If a brawl broke out, I might not even have the chance to intervene. But heaven knows I was itching for a fight. After all this time playing the obedient girl, I was on the verge of losing my composure. Miss, the leader of the thugs stammered as I removed my mask, momentarily taken aback. Thank heavens one of you has eyes, I replied, caught off guard, then smiled softly. I must admit, it was a pity that a confrontation didn't ensue. Miss, Lin Yu echoed, turning to me like a frightened rabbit. He knows you? I shrugged in acknowledgement. Being abducted only to be adopted by a gang leader, what could I do about my born-to-privilege fate? Lin Yu remained in shock, while the small-time thug nearly crumpled to his knees. Miss, we sincerely apologize. We didn't know it was you, he nearly wailed. That Chin gave us money to teach two girls a lesson. We had no idea it was you. I recall my father has a rule against harming innocent civilians, especially women and children. I interjected, drawing my knife and casually raising it to his chin, the blade gleaming ominously. The sharp tip was but a breath away from his throat. He trembled violently, but dared not resist. Don't be afraid, I reassured him kindly. It's not such a grave matter. According to the rules, we merely need to chop off one hand. His legs gave way, and he sank to the ground. The leader faltered, and those behind him quickly followed suit, kneeling in unison. Please spare us, miss. Save us. He clutched at my pant leg, pleading. If the boss finds out, we're finished. Having violated the rules, they had the misfortune of crossing me. It was evident their fate would be far from the simple outcome I had suggested. Darling, what is going on? The situation turned on its head as Lin Yu, trembling, tugged at my sleeve. Anyone with a modicum of sense could surmise that my identity was tangled with the underworld. Yet Lin Yu instinctively chose to trust me. Don't be afraid, I softened my tone, gently patting her head. The show is about to begin. I instructed the thugs to avoid alarming anyone. I pretended to be there to collect my payment, luring Chun Yuan out. She never anticipated that these thugs would turn against her and was easily coaxed into an encounter. I trailed them, recording clear video evidence from my concealed position around the corner. In the video, under the thugs' deliberate flattery, Chun Yuan shed her usual sweet demeanor. Those two bitches should have been taught a lesson long ago, she scoffed, chin raised. Especially Lin Yu. That wild child who dares to entice the man I have my eyes on. I already taught her a lesson before. Isolating her wasn't enough for her to learn. Let us see if she dares to get close to Lu Fan again. Her words became increasingly offensive, making it hard to fathom that such filth could come from the mouth of a 17-year-old girl. I suppressed my anger, ensuring I kept all evidence intact as I returned home. Lin Yu followed me silently all the way back, unusually subdued. Now that you've seen your best friend's true colors, how does it feel? I asked stiffly. To my surprise, Lin Yu did not cry. A smile forced from the depths of despair is far more unsightly than tears. Why is that? She murmured softly. I truly considered her my closest friend, and I have never once attempted to seduce her boyfriend. My only connection with Lu Fan was when I assisted him by swapping shifts for a day. He merely thanked me, and that was the extent of our interaction. In exasperation, I delivered a firm slap to her forehead. Lin Yu, nursing her sore head, looked up at me with reddened eyes, unsure whether her distress stemmed from Chun Yuan's words or my reprimand. In the future, be discerning when choosing friends. I gritted my teeth. If you cannot, at least bring them to me for an assessment, so I won't have to clean up your mess later. That evening, the true harbinger of chaos reached out to me. I stared at the screen displaying Old Man for what felt like an eternity, torn between dread and resolve, before finally answering with a forced cheerfulness. Hey, Dad. So you do remember I'm your father? His thunderous voice reverberated through the phone, piercing my eardrums. Wang Shouqing has informed me. What on earth is going on? Oh no. I had forgotten about Uncle Wang, my ever-loyal bodyguard who never made his presence known yet was always in the shadows. He must have relayed today's events to my father. Is Wang Uncle my bodyguard or your spy? I protested in frustration. I could have handled this minor issue myself. Handle it? Nonsense. My father's voice boomed even louder. If it weren't for him, I would have remained oblivious to the fact that you seem to have forgotten about me. How could that be? You know I love you the most, Dad. I declared with feigned righteousness. Get lost, get lost. My father, unable to tolerate such sentimental nonsense, swiftly changed the subject.
What is truly happening?
I knew that old bastard Chun could only raise a little bastard like you. Can you handle this? Or should I dismantle their family? No. I quickly interjected. Please take it easy. I am still your daughter, if I can't handle something so trivial. As long as you know, my father, who had just been shouting, suddenly softened his tone with a huff. The Chin family is no match for me. Once you're done playing, hurry back. Mingqing is waiting to propose to you. Hello? Poor signal, Dad, goodbye. I hastily hung up, feeling a headache at the mention of Song Mingqing. We had grown up together, but while I was rescued by my father, he was a legitimate scion of the underworld. In his youth, he would chase after me, calling me the unwanted wild child. I promptly subdued him with a thorough beating. Later, when my father caught wind of this, he stormed to the Song residence, demanding an explanation. However, in the end, nothing came of it. When my father barged into the Song family estate in a fury, he found Mingqing being chased and thrashed by his own father. Uncle Song's belt cracked like thunder, I'll teach you to speak without a filter. I swear I'll beat you to a pulp today. Ultimately, it was my father who, unable to bear the sight, rushed over to protect Mingqing, saving his life. However, the beating was severe enough that 5 or 6-year-old Mingqing was bedridden for an entire month. From that moment on, we forged a lifelong enmity, clashing whenever we met. Mingqing remained as sharp-tongued as ever, wasting his father's thoughtful choice of a cultured name on his insolence. Nevertheless, he never again mocked my origins. But I digress. In summary, the stars of our destinies do not align, and marriage is an impossibility between us. Chen Yuan had meticulously calculated the timing of her ambush with the ruffians. Following closely was the banquet hosted by the Lin family, where Lin's father intended to publicly acknowledge my identity. Being classmates, Chen Yuan's family also received an invitation. If her plan succeeded, it would render both Lin Yu and me unable to attend the banquet. Detached from the situation, she could feign concern for her classmates, visiting us under the guise of sympathy, and subsequently embellish our tragic plight, spreading it far and wide. Consequently, not only would Lin Yu and I be ruined, but the Lin family stock prices would also inevitably suffer. The Chen family was notorious for capitalizing on a crisis. Her scheme was indeed flawlessly orchestrated. Yet, she failed to account for the fact that I had grown accustomed to the treachery of human nature during my years spent in my father's shadow. The banquet proceeded as scheduled. Chen Yuan, brimming with confidence, donned her finest attire. However, upon witnessing Lin Yu and me, enscathed and arm in arm with Lin's father, her champagne glass shattered in a fit of rage and disbelief. The soothing music was abruptly pierced by the sound of glass shattering, drawing the attention of all present. "What's wrong, Yuan? Are you alright?" a concerned classmate inquired. "And no, I'm fine. I was just careless." Chen Yuan forced a smile, desperately attempting to mask her embarrassment. Standing in the spotlight, she was unable to discern my features against the light, yet I could perceive her contorted expression in its entirety. "Hold it together, Chen Yuan." I smiled at her. "Your true performance is yet to come." Since this was a banquet to acknowledge kinship, I had invited my father. However, perhaps due to my perceived ingratitude, he had not shown up even half an hour after the festivities began. Instead, he sent Song Mingqing in his stead.
"Chen Yuan. Who is Chen Yuan?"
Mingqing, dressed impeccably, bellowed in the center of the dance floor, visibly annoyed.
"Wow, who is that?"
"He is so handsome. Is he a celebrity invited by the Lin family? Does anyone know him? I want to promote him. Is he here to confess to Chen Yuan? How lucky is she? With Lu Fan, and now a handsome guy confessing." Whispers of envy and admiration spread among the girls, their gazes fixated on Chen Yuan. Even Lin Yu gasped, nudging my shoulder. "Babe, look.
"A handsome guy. What's handsome about him?"
I retorted, irritated by Mingqing's presence, incredulous at Lin Yu's words. "Do you like him?"
"Don't say that."
Lin Yu's ears flushed as she attempted to cover my mouth. Meanwhile, Chen Yuan, who had been fuming moments ago, suddenly turned crimson. Feigning modesty while struggling to conceal her delight as she approached the center of the crowd, her champagne-splattered skirt a comical sight. "Hello, do you need something?" she asked. Lifting her skirt, her voice sweetened far beyond its usual tone. "So, you're Chen Yuan?" Mingqing scrutinized her with a familiar gaze. I recognized that look well. It was the same one he had when we practiced shooting together as children, aiming a Beretta at the target with deadly precision.
"Target locked."
And the next move would be lethal. Chen Yuan shyly nodded. Satisfied, Mingqing nodded in return. "Go. Apologize to Shin Baobei. I already have someone I like." Chen Yuan instinctively attempted to reject what she presumed was a confession, only to realize midway where the misalignment lay. "What did you say?" she asked incredulously, looking at Mingqing. "I won't repeat myself." Mingqing dropped the playful facade, his expression turning serious as he tilted his chin in my direction. Chen Yuan blushed again, this time clearly out of embarrassment and discomfort. Their conversation had drawn the attention of everyone present, transforming envious gazes into ones filled with suspicion. Accustomed to being adored like a queen, when had she ever endured such indignation? Biting her lip, she glared at me with resentment. Paralyzed in place. "I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize?" "Wow, sister, you went and hired thugs to block someone. And you still claim you did nothing wrong?" Mingqing blurted out without thinking. What exactly constitutes a mistake, then? Murder and arson? The moment those words escaped his lips, the room erupted in uproar. The Lin parents, who had just learned what Lin Yu and I had nearly endured, turned ashen. "What is going on? What have you done to my two daughters?" They did not even bother to verify the truth with Lin Yu and me, and instead confronted the Qin family with vehement accusations. The gathering was comprised of esteemed guests, individuals of significance who typically would not abandon their decorum. Yet, at this moment, they cast astonished and disdainful glances towards the Qin family. Mr. Qin, a Mediterranean man with a beer belly, flushed with embarrassment, repeatedly gestured in denial, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, no one believed him. Chen Yuan, in a fit of rage, screamed at Song Mingqing, "You are slandering me. What evidence do you have?" Song Mingqing fell silent. He had merely overheard the situation from his father, and indeed had no evidence to present. He glanced past Chen Yuan, directing his gaze towards me. I thought, this brute. He should not have come. He has completely disrupted my plans. I have the evidence, I declared, realizing that I had no choice but to reveal the video. The footage clearly showcased Chen Yuan's contorted face and venomous words for all to witness. That wretched girl deserves it. Who told her to seduce my boyfriend? Isn't she all about seducing men? Let her indulge this time. That Shin Baobei is even more despicable. By protecting that wretched girl, she deserves to experience degradation herself. Chen Yuan, in a frantic attempt, lunged towards me to snatch my phone. No, that's not true. Don't play it again. Her face was ashen, desperately denying the truth. Yet, the evidence was irrefutable. It was too late to turn off the video. How terrifying. This is exceedingly malicious. She was just lamenting to me about how Lin Yu always bullied her. What a good actress. Could Lin Yu really bully someone like her? Her previous claims about Lin Yu sowing discord were merely one-sided. She told me the same thing. A master of deceit. It seems Lin Yu's alleged seduction of her boyfriend may not be true after all. The students present began to murmur, many recalling Chen Yuan's earlier attempts to malign Lin Yu. The timeline aligned, and everyone realized Chen Yuan had been lying. The tide of public opinion swiftly turned against her. Isolated and desperate, Chen Yuan finally remembered her so-called boyfriend, casting a pleading look at the silent Lu Fan. Lu Fan, say something. It was Lin Yu who seduced you first, right? I wasn't lying. Lu Fan, who had been observing the chaos from the edge of the dance floor, chuckled. First of all, I have never referred to you as my girlfriend. Secondly, Lin Yu and I have nothing going on. This revelation struck like Thor's hammer, leaving even me momentarily astonished. You. Chen Yuan's face was streaked with tears, her mascara running like a ghost seeking vengeance. You clearly sent me milk tea. And you even gave me that watch you always wear. The banquet had transformed into a grand spectacle, everyone holding their breath in anticipation of Lu Fan's response. Lu Fan squinted thoughtfully. The milk tea was a small gift for the winter solstice. Everyone in the class received it. You were absent.
So, I left it on your desk.
As for the watch, I must have placed it incorrectly. I searched for it for quite some time. Since it's with you, please return it to me as soon as possible. Each statement pierced deeper than the last. Laughter erupted from the crowd. Following this incident, Chen Yuan's reputation was utterly destroyed, and she fled the banquet in tears. Everyone began discussing her peculiar behavior, while my gaze drifted over the crowd, landing firmly on Lu Fan. He seemed to sense my attention, raising his wine glass in acknowledgement. I lifted my skirt and turned away, pretending not to see. Chen Yuan was devious, but not entirely foolish. I suspected Lu Fan's words might not be entirely truthful. Whether to curry favor with the Lin family or out of disdain for Chen Yuan, it was clear not everyone found such a person worthy. As the banquet concluded satisfactorily, we had just returned home when a cacophony of urgent knocking erupted from outside. It sounds like a lot of people. Could it be the Chen family come to confront us? Father Lin listened for a moment, his expression grave as he ushered us towards the basement. However, the next moment, the voice booming from outside halted my steps. Shen Baobei, you ungrateful wretch. Forgetting your biological father for your stepfather. Come out here. My father's deep, resonant voice nearly shattered my eardrums. Who is it? Lin Yu grasped my hand in terror. Is it someone seeking revenge on you? It's a misunderstanding, I said with a hollow laugh, trying to reassure them as I turned to open the door. Outside stood a row of black Hummers, my father sternly at the forefront. One might think that an enemy had come to our door. Shen Quan, Lin father, who had followed me out, paused momentarily before erupting in anger. What are you doing at my doorstep in the middle of the night? Do you want me to call the police on you? Go ahead, and arrest me. The one who has raised your own daughter for 17 years. I don't believe you could sleep soundly at night. My father shouted back with vigor. This is Lin father was taken aback, looking at me in confusion. Sweetheart, this is, We are all relatives. Let us discuss this amicably. I was sweating bullets, trying to ease the tension. Father, this is my dad. Dad, this is my old man. The introductions seemed to grow increasingly bizarre. What a perfect match. Song Mingqing chimed in, reveling in the unfolding drama. Shen Baobei, you now have two fathers. Aren't you thrilled? I could hardly contain my irritation. I felt an overwhelming urge to punch him right then and there. Yet, my father waved his hand dismissively. Forget it. Considering you are the father of my daughter, I won't lay claim to your family's assets. All of this is a gift for my daughter. Don't let your family's modest means impose on her. As he spoke, he gestured, and a line of identically dressed bodyguards in black emerged from the Hummers, unloading items from the trunk and carrying them into the house. Lin Father, a cultured man, had never witnessed such a crude display and stood in shock for a while before regaining his composure, only to begin cursing again. What do you think you are looking down upon? My own daughter? I would never let her suffer. Who knows? My father retorted, glancing at Lin Yu, who had somehow found her way to my side. Look at how fragile she has become after staying in your house for over a decade. Our Lin Yu possesses a refined demeanor. That is called being a lady. Lady? Spare me. Just step aside and don't obstruct my work, my father declared, hoisting a box with great determination as he strode inside. As he passed Lin Yu, he paused momentarily. I could feel her tension as she instinctively shrank behind me, gripping my clothing tightly. Daughter, since you and my daughter are sisters, that makes you my daughter too, my father proclaimed, freeing a hand to pat his chest. I will send you some nutritional supplements tomorrow. Look at how thin you are, it's a pity. With that, he sighed heavily and rushed inside with his load. Lin Father was left bewildered, chasing after him to argue. What a false alarm. Lin Mother, seasoned in worldly affairs, smiled gently.
Come on, let us go home and rest.
I responded, taking Lin Yu's hand as we turned back. However, after just a few steps, I heard footsteps following closely behind. Why are you following us? Go back to your own house. I turned to face the persistent Song Mingqing, irritation evident in my voice. We are all relatives. Let us discuss this properly, he insisted, trailing along with an unrepentant grin. I squinted at him suspiciously, sensing his ulterior motives. I warn you, keep your hands off our Lin Yu. What are you talking about? Sweetheart? Lin Yu's face flushed with embarrassment as she desperately tugged at my clothes. I had noticed it long ago. Song Mingqing had been unable to take his eyes off Lin Yu since the banquet. He arrived at the dinner merely to comply with my father's request. Ostensibly to bolster my spirits, it is utterly inconceivable that he would voluntarily accompany my father to deliver something to me. If he refrains from poisoning my food, I shall consider him a paragon of benevolence. So, what? Song Mingqing remarked, rubbing his nose, his ears tinged with a shade of crimson, yet maintaining his obstinate demeanor. Xiao Yu hasn't he uttered a word yet? Who are you to dictate to me? Xiao Yu is the most obedient to me. You would do well to show me some respect. I positioned Lin Yu protectively behind me, casting an exasperated glance in his direction. Don't be difficult. Song Mingqing softened his tone. I wish to invite Xiao Yu to the movies tomorrow. He said this while surreptitiously glancing at Lin Yu. Lin Yu remained silent, her lips pressed together, her gaze fixed on me, brimming with hope, much like a child eagerly awaiting a piece of candy. I opened my mouth. Yet before I could articulate my thoughts, a resonant shout from my father echoed through the room, met with Lin's father's spirited retorts. This house is far too small. There's no space for even a few boxes. Are those merely a few boxes? You're practically relocating a department store into my home. Such is the absurdity of my life, burdened by both the young and the old. The story concludes here. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and liking to show your support. Until we meet again in the next tale.